Emily and Jack appeared to lead the perfect life. Jack was the kind of husband who earned respect for his hard work, kindness, and unwavering devotion to his wife. They were a dynamic couple who complemented each other in every way, from quiet movie nights to relaxed weekend brunches. Even after 5 years of marriage, Jack still gazed at Emily with the same sparkle in his eyes as he had on their wedding day. He believed he knew her well and considered them to be soulmates in every sense. But over time, small things began to feel off. Emily, who had once eagerly shared every detail of her day, became more distant. She laughed less, avoided Jack's gaze at times, and always seemed busy. Even when they were alone together, Jack brushed off these changes, assuming they were simply due to the stress of her new, demanding marketing position that required long hours and frequent travel. Yet, a persistent and quiet unease lingered in his heart. The first sign appeared on a Friday night when Emily was heading out for a girls' night with her friends. Jack encouraged her to enjoy the evening, but as the night wore on and her texting slowed to a halt, his stomach tightened. When she came home late, smelling faintly of cologne and looking too polished for a casual night out, Jack's suspicions grew. Still, he suppressed them, not wanting to be the type of man who constantly interrogated his wife. Jack was helping Emily with the laundry when her phone buzzed, displaying a text from an unknown number. Last night was unforgettable. When can we do it again? Emily had never given him any reason to doubt her, but 2 weeks later, the second sign appeared. Jack set down the laundry, his heart sinking as he took in the message. When Emily saw his expression, she quickly deleted it and flashed a bright smile. "Just work stuff," she said, "a client joke." Jack forced a smile, but doubt began to creep into his mind. The words from that message kept playing in his head, making him uneasy, and he became more withdrawn, scrutinizing Emily's every move with increasing tension. Before long, his worst fears were realized. One rainy Saturday night, Emily told him she would be working late again. Jack kissed her goodbye, but as he watched her drive off, a heavy sense of uncertainty weighed on his chest. On impulse, he got into his own car and followed her, keeping his distance and turning off his headlights. He saw Emily pull into a small, dimly lit bar on the far side of town, where a tall, dark-haired man with a broad smile stood waiting at the door. Emily wrapped her arms around him and laughed as she stepped out of her car. The image seared into Jack's mind as he drove home, his vision blurred with anger and betrayal. He stumbled into his empty house, overwhelmed with a mixture of emotions but feeling numb. He poured himself a drink, then another, each one numbing the pain just enough for him to think clearly. Jack realized there was no saving his marriage. The woman he once loved was gone, replaced by someone he didn't recognize. Instead of reacting impulsively, Jack decided on a different course of action, something that would make Emily feel the betrayal as sharply as he did. He spent the next week carefully planning, making sure every detail was in place for what was to come. Emily's betrayal soon returned to haunt her. Jack calmly emptied their shared bank accounts, transferring the funds into an account she couldn't access. He started packing his belongings little by little, taking only what was essential and leaving no trace that he had ever been in the house. He arranged to work remotely for a while, coordinating with his boss to ensure he could leave without attracting any attention. His goal was to be gone before Emily even realized what was happening, leaving her with nothing but vacant rooms and the crushing weight of her actions. The night before his departure, Jack booked a suite at a nearby hotel, setting it up so Emily wouldn't know where he was. He knew she'd likely be spending the evening with her mysterious companion, which worked perfectly with his plan. While Emily was out that night, Jack meticulously carried out his plan. He left a single note on the kitchen counter, a simple farewell, without any explanation or apologies, just 3 words: "I know everything." He did a final sweep of the house, leaving behind only the remnants of the life they had once shared. By the time he closed the door behind him, the house was nearly empty, a hollow shell that mirrored the emptiness in his heart. At the hotel, Jack waited, pouring himself a glass of whiskey as he kept an eye on the clock. He imagined how Emily would react when she came home. He could almost see her face as her confusion shifted to panic upon discovering the note. The house abandoned, everything she knew gone. He hoped she would feel even a fraction of the pain she had caused him. Emily arrived home at daybreak, the scent of another man's cologne still lingering on her clothes. She cried out for Jack, expecting him to be asleep in their bed, but the silence that greeted her was unsettling. She switched on the lights, her eyes falling on the note on the kitchen counter. Her panic set in as she moved from room to room, her eyes widening in disbelief as she realized the truth. He was really gone. The closets were nearly empty. The drawers held hardly any of his belongings, and even their wedding pictures had been carefully removed. As Emily reached for her phone, her hands trembling, she dialed his number, her heart racing. His calls went straight to voicemail, and she left frantic messages, hoping for a response. In the weeks that followed, Emily did everything she could to reach Jack, calling friends and family, even showing up at his workplace, only to learn that he had taken a remote assignment. Her calls and texts went unanswered, each one wearing down her composure until she was left with nothing but regret and sorrow. Her new relationship with her mysterious man quickly soured, and the excitement she once felt turned to guilt. Her voice cracked as she begged him to come back, but Jack didn't answer. He was long gone, leaving her to face the consequences of her choices in the harsh light of reality. Meanwhile, Jack started anew in a different city, surrounded by new friends, far removed from the memories of his failed marriage. He found solace in knowing that he had taken control of his own future and would not let betrayal define him. When Jack reflected on everything, he felt no bitterness, but instead a quiet sense of satisfaction. He had given her the freedom she had sought, even though she had ultimately trapped herself in her own sadness and isolation.